Hey, what is going on, guys? Hess here, collectivekicks.com. Wanted to bring you guys a video and show you guys a detailed look and review of this pair of sneakers right here. This is the Adidas Nmd Cs2 PK, and I will get into the details of this shoe in just a second. I do have a couple other pairs for comparative purposes for you guys. One, obviously the CS1, also the original NMD R1 and the NMD R2, and there's a couple reasons why I have both of those out here. So hopefully you guys like this video, and if you guys do, hit the thumbs up button, show you guys' support on the video. It is much appreciated, and it goes a long way when you guys do that for me, so definitely do appreciate y'all for doing that. Anyway, so this is the Ronin colorway, and I don't really have a lot of history on why they named it this, but I looked up what Ronin is, and it basically just says it is a wandering samurai who has no lord or master. So there's an image of what a Ronin looks like. It kind of has the same sort of samurai style vibe with the collar, the alternating colors around the collar, and then this crazy, like, almost looks like swords or raindrops or something like that. But so I ended up buying these from Sneakers and stuff, and I actually tweeted out the links for you guys if you guys saw my tweets or my Instagram posts or anything like that. Definitely a colorway that I wanted to get. I really liked the overall aesthetics of this shoe. So first up, we will take a look at the box. You can see the 3 stripes across the top, and then the embossed sort of Adidas logo here. And you see that it just says Nmd Cs2 And what is that? If you guys are newer to sneakers, you might not know what that means. NMD actually stands for Nomad. Originally, it was spelled out Nomad. CS stands for City Sock, and PK stands for Prime Knit. So, and then you can see the colors here: CO Navy, and then blah 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 blah. It looks like just a bunch of random. I'm a size 9.5, so I went with a 9.5. True to size, I would say that these things fit. Sometimes the Prime Knit fits a half size big, but 9.5 fit me perfectly in this model. All in all, the aesthetics to me look really, really good on this model, and I really like the fact that it kind of remind you of the original City Sock, but also had some obvious changes. The main one, obviously, I thought that was kind of cool, how it lowers around the ankle area right here versus this side is a little bit higher. And I thought that was just an overall cool feature. The other thing that they changed is the back tab is now leather, at least on this pair. Maybe it will be different on other models. And then this is also another major difference. So that graphic pattern on the upper of the shoe, and I am imagining that they'll definitely do some different ones. We already saw the Kith version of these that had the stripe down the middle for the Kith Naked collaboration. Naked. I always say that every time. I have to say it. Naked. So those are some pretty major changes. The other big change is the sole and the midsole from the original one. So I'm going to save you guys a lot of time in trying to figure out what's different between this one and the original one. I already did a video of the R2 and the difference between the R1 and the R2. And I'm pleased to tell you guys it's exactly the same. The changes are literally exactly the same. These two as it is on these two. So, and one thing that actually gives you guys the hint is up on the very, very corner of the shoe right here. It actually tells you what it is. It says R42300. And so that's the outsole of this one. And then this one has it right here too. As you can see, R42300. Meanwhile, the CS1, it says something different here, R40343. And then on the NMD OG, you can see it says the same thing, R40343. But you could see also from the midsole, it has the Lego blocks, as we call them, on the City Sock 1, has the Lego blocks on the R1. Then you can see the block here and then the block here are exactly the same. So the most obvious giveaway is the fact that the traction pattern is exactly the same between both of these. Moving on to the version 2s, we can see that it has the same lines in the midsole here as it does here on the CS. You can see that it has the same styling on the block on the version 2s. Also on the back part right here, it definitely is more of an aggressive curve down from the previous version, as you can see. And for the soles, you can see exact same traction patterns for both of the version 2s of both of the shoes. So a side-by-side comparison, the top one is the CS1, the bottom one is the CS2. So it looks fundamentally the same, has just bigger, wider gaps here for the boost underneath. And then you could see the just traction pattern changed a little bit in the toe cap area and then also in the heel. So one thing I wanted to also compare is the collar height of the CS1 versus the CS2. It's definitely a bigger collar, obviously, from the version 1 to the version 2. You can see kind of a side by side. It's a little bit higher on this one, but then also it's higher just literally all the way around. So the 2 has more contour than the 1, as you can see around here, versus this one is just up on in the upper area. But because they pull this section down and it makes this hole feel a little bit smaller than it does on the CS1, this does fit a little bit snugger than the CS1. So if you prefer definitely a more relaxed fit, then the CS1 is noticeably more relaxed feeling than the CS2 in my opinion. And the CS2 is still obviously very relaxed, but it's a little bit snugger across this section. I like the overall look of both of these models quite a bit, but if I had to choose one winner out of the two, I have to say the CS2. I like the overall shape of this much better than the first one. I think it's just overall more pleasing than the first version of the shoe. I like that the back tab is a little bit more shortened, not as exaggerated, and just the overall fit is a little bit more snug on these ones, which typically isn't something I prefer, but in this case, it actually works quite well. One other thing I did want to mention is you could tell from the back of the shoe, this has a little bit more of a rounded cup for the heel than the first version. So it's just something noticeable that you could see. This is a little bit more flat. So on the inside of the heel, you can see it has sort of a hyperfused type material that helps hold the shape for the heel cup section of the shoe. Versus the first version of the shoe, you could see the heel cup is much lower on the shoe than it is on this one. The last thing to note between the two is obviously the prime knit pattern is significantly different than we've seen in the past. So you can see the collar is thicker on the ones than it is on the twos. The overall print design is much different as well. Here we have 3 different directions of print. This one we only have one that kind of waves through the shoe. For those wanting a side-by-side of the CS versus the R2, you can see that the tongue collar on the R2 is actually a little bit higher than on the CS2. So that's interesting. Also the back tab, it sits up a little bit higher as well on this model. You definitely have more of a low top feel for these, as you could see side by side that these are much lower than even the R2s. The collar material is pretty much the same on both, as you could see. It's just done in a different fashion. The R2 forms the shape of a tongue versus the CS has the little wrap around right there. Probably the most significant part about the R2 is it has no laces, and I like the fact that it has no laces, and yet it still feels confined to your foot. And obviously you wouldn't go running in these, but the overall idea that this is a lifestyle shoe obviously appeals to me quite a bit. The laces are kind of not functional for me on the R2s because I don't ever tighten them. Anyways, what are your overall thoughts on the Adidas CS2 PKs? I think that Adidas did something really smart with this model, and that is the minimal branding. I like the fact that you can't see the Adidas logo like you could on the previous one on the little Lego part, and that people really, if they're interested in looking at these and wondering what they are, they ask. And when I was at work, I had at least 5 people ask me what these were because they didn't know they were Adidas. They thought they were Nikes. They just had no idea of the branding. So I thought that was a really smart move from Adidas because it gets people to organically just talk about the shoes. But that's all we have for this review. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video and found it somewhat informative. If you guys did, again, please hit the thumbs up button. Do appreciate your guys' support on the channel. And check back for more sneaker vids as I will be posting them at least 5 days a week. Peace, guys.